Dedication of merit. Nothing lost, everything gained. Have you ever wondered about this paradox? The more you give, the more you actually have? It sounds almost impossible, doesn't it? In our daily lives, we are taught to believe that giving something away means losing it. If I give away money, I have less. If I give away food, I'll have less to eat. If I give away my time, I'll have fewer hours for myself. And yet, in the spiritual dimension of life, the opposite is often true. There's a beautiful story I once heard about a poor farmer. After a difficult season, he harvested only a small amount of rice. It was barely enough to feed his family. But when he saw that his neighbor was struggling even more, he chose to share some of his precious harvest. It wasn't much, just a few handfuls, but it came from a heart that was generous and sincere. Now, what happened next may sound like a miracle, but it's also a reflection of a deeper truth. The following year, his fields yielded far more than he had expected, so much more that he was able not only to care for his family but also to continue sharing with others. His generosity didn't diminish his life, it multiplied it. This story echoes a teaching from the Buddha. When we dedicate or transfer the merit of our good deeds to others, it does not lessen our own blessings. Instead, it's like a single flame lighting many candles. The flame doesn't weaken. In fact, the light in the room grows brighter and warmer. Think about it. Have you ever offered a kind word to someone who was struggling and noticed how you also felt lighter afterward? Or maybe you've donated your time to help a friend move or to volunteer for a cause, and instead of feeling drained, you left with a heart full of joy. That's the secret of merit and dedication. It doesn't work like a bank account that decreases when you withdraw. It works more like love or compassion. The more you give, the more you discover within yourself. In Buddhist practice, this is called dedication of merit. Every time we do something wholesome, whether it's giving, helping, meditating, or even just sending a kind thought, we can dedicate the benefit of that action not only to ourselves but also to others. We might silently say, "May this goodness bring peace to my family, my community, and to all beings everywhere." And here's the remarkable part. The merit doesn't disappear when you share it. It's not like dividing a pie into smaller slices. It's more like planting seeds. A single seed can grow into a tree, which produces thousands of other seeds. By dedicating, you're actually expanding the reach of your goodness, allowing it to ripple outward in ways you can't even measure. When I first learned this teaching, I asked myself, why does it work this way? Why doesn't giving away diminish us? And over time, I realized something simple yet profound. Generosity changes the shape of our hearts. When we cling tightly to what we have, our world feels small, narrow, even suffocating. But when we open our hands and let something flow outward, our hearts expand, and with that expansion comes a sense of abundance. Imagine a stream of water. If you try to block it, the water stagnates and grows murky. But when you let it flow, it stays fresh and alive. Merit, or the fruits of good deeds, works in the same way. By dedicating it, by letting it flow, we keep it vibrant and alive, both in our lives and in the lives of others. Now, let's pause for a moment. What does this mean for us, living in a modern, busy, sometimes overwhelming world? Most of us aren't farmers with rice fields, but we do have harvests of our own, our skills, our time, our love, our daily acts of kindness. The question is, do we hoard them in fear that they'll run out, or do we share them with the trust that life has a way of replenishing what's given from the heart? This is not just a spiritual principle. Even psychology and neuroscience have started to show that giving activates the brain's reward system. When we give selflessly, dopamine and oxytocin, the so-called happiness chemicals, flood our system. Our health improves, our stress decreases, and we feel more connected. Science is only confirming what wisdom traditions have known for centuries. Generosity doesn't deplete us, it enriches us. But let's take this a step further. Dedication of merit isn't just about feeling good when we give. It's about planting seeds that go beyond what we can see. When we consciously dedicate our good deeds for the benefit of others, we are sending out an intention, a vibration, if you will, that can reach places our hands cannot. We may never know how far those ripples travel, but that's part of the beauty. Think of a candle at vigil. One flame passes to another, then another, until the whole space is glowing. No single flame has lost its power, but together, they've created a field of light strong enough to guide the lost, to comfort the grieving, to inspire hope. That's the essence of dedication. Nothing lost, everything gained, everything multiplied. So let me leave you with a gentle question to reflect on. In your own life, what is one act of goodness, small or large, that you could dedicate today? Maybe it's the smile you gave to a stranger. Maybe it's the patience you showed in a difficult conversation. Maybe it's simply the effort you made to listen with compassion. What would happen if you silently dedicated that to someone in need, or even to all beings everywhere? Dedication doesn't require ceremony, incense, or chanting, though those can be beautiful too. At its core, it's simply the act of widening the circle of your kindness. And the wider the circle, the more abundance you will discover within yourself. As we close this reflection, remember this: dedication is not about losing. It's about expanding. It's about trusting that when we give, life gives back in ways we may never have imagined. And this leads us to a deeper question, one we'll explore next time. If merit grows when we share it, how can we make sure our dedication truly touches not just individuals, but the whole web of life? Stay with me, because that's where the heart of this practice really shines. Dedication expands the heart of loving kindness. Let me ask you something. If blessings are kept only for ourselves, can they ever truly bloom to their fullest? It's a question that seems simple, but when you sit with it, it becomes profound. Many of us live with a quiet fear that if we share what's good, our fortune, our health, our joy, we'll somehow end up with less. So, almost instinctively, we guard our blessings like treasures hidden in a locked chest. But what happens when a flower is locked away from sunlight, from the air, from the rain? It cannot bloom. In the same way, merit, or spiritual blessing, cannot flourish if it is confined only to ourselves. There is a story about a meditation master. After years of practice, each time he completed a session of meditation or a wholesome act, he would always pause, place his palms together, and dedicate it with these words: "May all beings benefit from this." He wasn't just thinking of his family, his students, or his friends. He was thinking of everyone, the people he would never meet, the animals, the forests, even the unseen beings. His practice wasn't just about his own awakening. It was about widening the circle until no one was left outside. This is the secret of expanding the heart. Because when we direct our blessings only toward ourselves, they become small, fragile, easily broken. But when we extend them outward, toward others, toward the world, they grow stronger, limitless, impossible to measure. Think about it in terms of love. If love is only inward, locked inside, it suffocates. But when it is given freely, it multiplies. When a mother hugs a child, both feel the warmth. When a friend listens without judgment, both hearts are healed. Dedication works in exactly the same way. And here's something to reflect on. What would it feel like if, instead of thinking, "I wish only for my own success," we added, "And may others, too, find success and joy in their lives"? Would that wish take away from our own? Or would it actually expand the horizon of our well-being? I remember a time when I was going through a personal struggle. Everything in me wanted to focus inward, on my pain, my fear, my questions. But during meditation, I tried something different. I whispered a prayer, not just for myself, but for everyone who might be feeling the same way at that exact moment. May all beings who feel lonely tonight find comfort. May all who are anxious discover peace. And something remarkable happened. My own suffering felt lighter, as if by sharing that wish, I had opened a window in a dark room and allowed fresh air to flow in. That's the power of expanding our dedication. It shifts us from a mis-centered world into a we-centered universe. It transforms merit from being a private possession into a shared blessing. And the more shared it is, the stronger it becomes. Science, interestingly, backs this up. Studies in positive psychology show that when people practice loving-kindness meditation, sending out wishes of well-being not only to themselves but also to strangers and even to those they dislike, their levels of happiness, resilience, and connection increase. Their stress lowers. Their sense of life satisfaction grows. In other words, what spiritual teachers have said for centuries, that widening the heart benefits everyone, is now being confirmed by research. So why does this work? I believe it's because the heart is not meant to be small. The heart wants to expand, to include, to embrace. When we only hold blessings for ourselves, our hearts shrink. But when we let blessings flow outward, our hearts find their natural size, vast, spacious, limitless. But perhaps you're wondering, does this mean I have to give away everything? If I dedicate all my blessings to others, won't I be left empty-handed? This is a fair question, and it touches on a deep misunderstanding about dedication. Dedication is not about subtracting from your life. It's not about giving away until nothing remains. It is about transforming personal goodness into universal goodness. Just like one candle lighting another, its flame does not disappear, but the light multiplies. Let's take a moment to test this in your own imagination. Imagine you've just done something good. Maybe you helped a neighbor carry groceries, or you took care of your health by eating mindfully, or you chose kindness instead of anger in a tense moment. Now picture yourself holding that merit like a glowing light in your hands. What if, instead of clenching your fists around it, you opened your palms and let that light radiate outward? To your loved ones, to your community, to people across the world who you'll never meet. How does that feel? Do you sense a loss? Or do you feel that the light shines even brighter? That's the essence of dedication. It's not depletion, it's expansion. This is why great teachers emphasize, may all beings benefit. It's not just a ritual phrase. It's a training of the heart to grow beyond the small boundaries of self. And the more we practice it, the more natural it becomes. Soon, even our daily thoughts begin to shift. Instead of asking only, what can I gain? We start asking, how can this benefit others too? And that simple shift transforms everything: our work, our relationships, our sense of purpose. So here's the gentle invitation for you today. The next time you do something good, no matter how small, pause for a moment. Breathe. And silently dedicate it outward. May others be well. May others be happy. May all beings know peace. Try it once, and notice how it feels. Try it every day, and watch how your heart begins to change. Because when loving kindness grows wider, merit doesn't stop at one person. It becomes like a wave that keeps rolling, touching shore after shore, life after life. And yet, we might still wonder, if we dedicate our blessings so freely, do we risk giving it all away until nothing is left? Or is there a hidden law that ensures what we give returns to us in even greater measure? That's the mystery we'll explore in the next part of this journey. Giving, yet still remaining full. Let me begin with a simple question. When one candle lights 1,000 others, does its flame grow weaker? Of course not. The first candle shines just as brightly, and now the light has multiplied 1,000-fold. This is the perfect image for understanding the mystery of giving. Because so often, we are afraid. We think, if I give, I will lose. If I share, I will be left with less. But in truth, life doesn't work that way. Especially when it comes to blessings, merit, and the goodness of the heart. The Buddha once taught that when we dedicate our merit, when we consciously share the fruits of our good deeds with others, we don't lose a single drop of it. In fact, something remarkable happens. Not only does that merit remain with us, but it also gives birth to a new kind of joy. A joy deeper than the act itself, the joy of letting goodness flow freely. Think about water for a moment. A pond that is stagnant, holding tightly to its water, eventually becomes murky. But a river that keeps flowing, giving, moving, remains fresh and clear. Our blessings are like that. If we hoard them, they stagnate. If we share them, they stay alive, pure, and abundant. Let me share a story. There was once a woman who lived very simply. She didn't have much money, but every morning, she would prepare a small meal and leave a portion of it outside for the birds. People asked her, "Why give away food when you barely have enough for yourself?" She smiled and said, "When I see the birds eat, my heart feels full. And when my heart is full, I am never poor." Years later, people noticed something about her. Though her circumstances didn't dramatically change, she always seemed content, radiant, and at peace. Perhaps her giving wasn't just feeding the birds, it was nourishing her own soul. That's the hidden law of giving. What we release into the world doesn't diminish us, it enriches us. Because the act of sharing creates joy, and joy itself is a blessing that multiplies everything it touches. Maybe you've felt this before. Have you ever given someone a gift, and while they smiled with gratitude, you realized you felt even happier than they did? That's the miracle of generosity. The moment of giving lights up something inside us, something that reminds us we are connected, that we belong, that we are part of something larger than just ourselves. And here's the important truth. Dedication, or the act of offering our merit, doesn't erase what we have. On the contrary, it anchors it more deeply. Like planting a seed in fertile soil, it doesn't vanish. It takes root, it grows, and eventually, it bears fruit far beyond what we could imagine. I once heard a monk explain it this way. When you dedicate your merit, you're not handing it away like giving someone a dollar bill. You're expanding it, like sharing a smile. You still have the smile, and now someone else has it too. Isn't that beautiful? But this raises a question worth reflecting on. If giving multiplies blessings, then why do so many of us hold back? Why do we hesitate to share? I think it's because we've been taught, by culture, by fear, that resources are scarce, that life is a competition, that if someone else gains, we must lose. But spiritual wisdom teaches the opposite. Life is abundant, and the more we give, the more we tap into that abundance. A kind word costs nothing, yet it can heal a heart. A blessing shared doesn't shrink, it grows wings. And science, once again, gives us a little confirmation. Studies show that people who regularly practice acts of generosity, whether it's donating money, volunteering, or simply dedicating their thoughts of goodwill, experience higher levels of happiness and even live longer. Their immune systems strengthen, their stress levels drop, and their sense of meaning deepens. In other words, giving is not just noble, it's healthy. So let's return to the candle. Imagine yourself as that flame. You can guard it, protecting it from the wind, hiding it so that no one else can touch it. Or you can offer it, lighting other candles until a whole room glows. Which choice feels more alive? Which choice creates more light, more warmth, more beauty? This is why dedication, rejoicing and sharing blessings, is not a loss but a gain. It is the practice of letting your light join the light of countless others. So here's today's invitation. The next time you do something good, no matter how small, maybe you recycle, maybe you comfort a friend, maybe you sit in stillness and breathe with awareness, don't just keep that goodness for yourself. Pause, smile, and silently say, may this goodness benefit not only me, but all beings. Feel the way your heart expands in that moment. Notice how joy arises, not from having, but from sharing. And remember this, just like the flame of a candle, your blessings do not fade when you share them. They become stronger, brighter, and more enduring. But this leads us to the next question, one that goes even deeper. If we want our blessings to reach where they're needed most, how do we dedicate them skillfully? How can we ensure that what we send out truly touches the lives it is meant to touch? That's the journey we'll take together in the next part. Dedicating the right way, more than just words. Let me start with a thought. Dedication is not just folding your hands and whispering a prayer. It is a living action. Too often, when we hear the phrase dedicating merit, we picture someone kneeling in a temple, chanting or reciting words. And yes, that's beautiful, but it's only the surface. Dedication is so much deeper than words. It's about the heart behind the act, and the way that heart shapes the energy we release into the world. The Buddha taught that even the smallest act of goodness can be dedicated. Offering a bowl of rice, lending a hand to someone in need, or even a single kind thought, each can become a seed of merit. But here's the key. It's not the size of the act that matters, it's the sincerity of the heart. Think about it this way. Imagine two people. One gives a large donation, but in their heart, they're seeking recognition, applause, or some personal gain. The other gives just a single coin, or a gentle smile, but with a heart full of love and compassion. Which gift do you think carries more lasting energy? True dedication is born from a place of honesty, of selflessness. When you dedicate with that kind of heart, your blessing doesn't stop with you. It flows, like a river that never dries, reaching places you may never even see. Let me share a story. A monk once told of a woman who visited the temple every morning. She didn't have wealth, she didn't have influence. Her offerings were simple, a few flowers, sometimes a cup of water. But after every offering, she would close her eyes and say silently, "May this small act bring peace to someone who is suffering today." She never asked for anything in return. And over time, people noticed something extraordinary. Her presence seemed to calm those around her. Even in silence, she carried an energy that soothed, as if her dedication had woven itself into the fabric of her being. That's what it means when we say dedication is a living act. It's not confined to ritual. It becomes the way we live, the way we carry ourselves, the way we release goodness into the world. And here's something fascinating. Modern science echoes this truth. Studies in neuroscience show that when we set an intention with sincerity, whether in meditation, prayer, or simply focused thought, the brain and body respond. Stress hormones decrease, empathy increases, and the energy we radiate shifts. People can literally feel it when you dedicate from the heart, even without words. So maybe the real question is this: when you dedicate, what energy are you carrying inside you? Because if your heart is restless, resentful, or secretly hoping for reward, that vibration is what you send out. But if your heart is open, gentle, and full of compassion, then that's the energy you're transmitting to the world. It's like sending a letter. The envelope might look the same, but the message inside depends on what you write. Dedication is the same. It's the inner message that matters, not just the form. Now, I know this can sound lofty, but it's actually very simple in practice. Let me give you an example. Imagine you help a friend move into a new house. Afterward, you sit quietly for a moment and think, may this effort, may this sweat, bring comfort and stability not only to my friend, but to anyone who is searching for a safe home. That thought takes just a few seconds, but it transforms an ordinary act of service into something sacred, something that ripples far beyond what you can see. Or perhaps you're walking in a park, and you see a child laughing. You smile, and in your mind you whisper, may all children in the world know joy like this. That's dedication. That's merit in motion. The secret is this: dedication isn't about giving away what you have, it's about expanding it so that it touches countless lives. And when you dedicate in the right way, with sincerity, without clinging, without the hidden agenda of what's in it for me, then the blessing becomes unstoppable. It doesn't just sit in one place. It flows, it grows, it transforms. And here's the beautiful irony. When you dedicate selflessly, the blessing still remains with you. In fact, it deepens within you, because the very act of letting go makes your heart more open, more spacious, more alive. So maybe the real practice is this: every time you do something good, big or small, pause. Ask yourself, am I holding on to this just for me? Or am I ready to let it flow into the world? That single pause can change everything. Because when dedication is done right, it is no longer just a ritual. It is a way of being, a way of carrying light wherever you go. And so, let's close with this thought. Dedication, when rooted in sincerity, turns blessings into a living current of goodness. It's not about words, it's about the heart behind them. And when that heart is true, the energy that flows out has the power to heal. Which brings us to the next question. What exactly can this healing energy touch? Can it reach not only people, but places, even the wounds we carry inside ourselves? That's what we'll explore, together, in the next part. Dedication, the invisible source of healing. Let me begin with a question. Have you ever carried a wound that no medicine could truly touch? Not a scrape on the skin, but a pain deep inside, the kind that lingers in the heart, in the mind, in the quiet moments when no one is watching. There are wounds like that: loss, grief, loneliness, the kind of struggles that bandages and pills simply cannot fix. And yet, there's something remarkable. These wounds can be soothed by something invisible, something we might call wholesome energy. That's where the practice of dedication, of offering merit, becomes a source of healing. I've heard countless stories about this. For example, imagine someone in the hospital, facing illness, fear, and uncertainty. Their body is weak, but their spirit feels even weaker. And then something happens. A group of people, friends, family, sometimes even strangers, begin to pray for them or simply send them loving thoughts. Now, skeptics might roll their eyes and say, how can thoughts heal? How can words of blessing make a difference? But those who have lived it know, the moment those prayers and dedications begin, something shifts. The patient may not suddenly leap out of bed cured, but often, they report a strange calm, a gentle strength, as if they are no longer carrying their burden alone. It's as though invisible hands are holding them up. This is the mystery and the beauty of dedicating merit. It doesn't just create blessings in some faraway spiritual bank account. It creates real comfort, real resilience, real healing energy, the kind that touches not just the body, but the spirit. Think about this. When an entire community comes together, with hearts united, dedicating goodness to someone in pain, the effect is powerful. The patient feels it. The family feels it. And even those who offer the dedication feel lighter, more alive. Because merit isn't only about material things, like wealth, food, or possessions. Merit is also the quiet strength we pass on to one another. It's the invisible medicine that helps us stand back up when life knocks us down. Let me share a personal reflection. Years ago, a close friend of mine went through a devastating loss. There was nothing I could say that would fix it, nothing I could do to erase their grief. All I could offer was presence. But every night, before I went to bed, I held them in my heart and whispered, "May you be free from suffering, may you find peace." I never told them this. But months later, my friend said, "I don't know why, but during the darkest nights, I always felt like I wasn't alone, as if something was quietly carrying me. That's the power of dedication. It's invisible, but it's not empty. It reaches places that words and medicine cannot. Modern research even hints at this truth. Studies on meditation and compassion practices show that when groups of people collectively focus on sending positive intentions, what some call loving-kindness meditation, the recipients often report greater peace, faster recovery, and reduced anxiety. Even if the science hasn't caught up to explain everything, the lived experience is undeniable. Energy, when shaped by compassion, heals. So the question is, who do we dedicate to? It could be a loved one. It could be someone we've never met. Sometimes, it could even be ourselves, our own inner wounds that we've ignored for too long. And here's the beautiful paradox. When we dedicate merit to others, we ourselves are healed. How? Because in the very act of offering compassion, our heart softens. In thinking of others, we stop drowning in our own pain. And in releasing love, we find that our own wounds begin to close. Dedication is never a one-way street. It flows outward, but it also circles back, like water that nourishes the earth and then returns as rain. Let me ask you this. Have you ever felt lighter after wishing someone well, even if they never knew about it? That's dedication in its simplest form. It doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't have to be wrapped in ritual. It just has to be real. And when it's real, it heals. So perhaps this is the truth. Dedication is an invisible medicine. It soothes the weary, strengthens the sick, comforts the grieving, and steadies the broken. And it doesn't just work on them, it works on us too. Because every time we offer a blessing, we step outside the walls of our own suffering, and in that openness, we find our own healing. Let's hold on to this. There are wounds no doctor can see, but the heart knows them. And the heart also knows how to heal them, through compassion, through dedication, through the silent gift of energy that asks for nothing in return. That is the invisible source of healing. But there's still a question waiting. If merit can flow outward and also return inward, how exactly does it circle back to us? How does the blessing we dedicate to others find its way home? That's the mystery we'll explore in the next part. Dedication and the circle of return. Let me ask you something. When you plant a seed in the soil, do you realize that you're not just giving to the earth, you're also preparing a harvest for yourself? It may take time. You may not see the sprout right away. But eventually, that seed grows, flowers, and bears fruit. And when it does, you're reminded that giving is never one-directional. What goes out always finds a way to come back. That's exactly what happens with the practice of dedicating merit. Many people think, if I dedicate my blessings to someone else, doesn't that mean I lose them? But here's the truth. Dedication doesn't drain you, it multiplies you. Think about how love works. When you give love to a child, or to a friend, do you end up with less love inside yourself? Of course not. In fact, you often feel even more alive, more connected, more human. In the same way, when you dedicate merit, your good deeds, your kind thoughts, your compassionate energy, it doesn't vanish. It circulates. It moves outward, and then, through the law of cause and effect, it reflects back to you. There's an ancient teaching that says, the gift blesses both the giver and the receiver. And I think we all know this from experience. Have you ever volunteered your time, maybe at a shelter or community event? You show up thinking you're there to help them. But at the end of the day, who walks away with the warmest heart? You do. That's the circle of merit. That's the reflection. You give away your time, your energy, your kindness, and in return, you gain a sense of meaning, peace, and joy that no paycheck could ever buy. Here's another image. Imagine tossing a pebble into a still pond. The ripples spread outward, touching every corner of the water. But after traveling outward, those ripples eventually circle back. Dedication works the same way. When we send out compassion, when we dedicate blessings for the well-being of others, we set a ripple in motion. And sooner or later, those ripples return to us in unexpected ways. Sometimes as comfort in a hard season, sometimes as clarity in confusion, sometimes as an unexplainable sense of being held by life. Let me share a personal story. Years ago, during a time when I was struggling with stress and uncertainty, I made a habit every night of silently wishing well for strangers. It was simple. May they be safe. May they be healthy. May they be free. I never met those people. They'll never know I thought of them. But something incredible happened. After a few weeks, I realized that my own mind felt lighter. My heart felt less tangled. The very act of sending peace outwards reflected back as peace within myself. It was as if the universe was saying, "What you give is what you live." And this isn't just mystical talk. Even modern psychology supports it. Studies show that people who practice compassion, actively thinking of others' well-being, experience lower levels of stress, improved emotional health, and even physical benefits like lower blood pressure. So when we dedicate merit, we are not losing anything. We are aligning ourselves with a natural law, that love given is love returned. But here's something deeper to reflect on. Does the circle of return stop with us? When I dedicate to you, and you feel comforted, you might be inspired to dedicate to someone else. And then they dedicate to another. Suddenly, this isn't just a circle, it's a web, a network of compassion that connects entire communities. I once heard it described like this: a single candle can light 1,000, and yet its own flame never diminishes. But the truth is even better. The flame grows brighter because it's part of something larger. Dedication doesn't just cycle back to one individual. It ties us all into a living circle of care. What begins as one act of goodwill can expand into a culture of compassion, a community where everyone is both giving and receiving. Let's sit with that thought. When you dedicate merit, you're not only planting seeds for your own peace, you're also helping to grow a field where countless others can harvest peace as well. And in that shared harvest, your own joy is magnified. So, next time you wonder, if I dedicate this goodness, will I have anything left? Remember the truth. The more you give, the more the circle gives back. Dedication is not subtraction. It's multiplication. It's not loss. It's reflection. This is the circle of return, giving and receiving in the same breath, flowing outward and inward, like the tide of the ocean, like the rhythm of the heart. And now, here's a question to carry with you. If merit doesn't just return to one person but flows through an entire community, how powerful could it be if we all dedicated together, as one? That's the vision we'll explore in the next part. Dedication. Connecting the spiritual community. Let me ask you this. Did you know that every time you dedicate merit, you're actually plugging yourself into a vast ocean of consciousness? It may sound poetic, even a little mysterious. But think about it. One drop of water alone will eventually evaporate. But when it joins a river, when it merges with the ocean, it becomes part of something that cannot be diminished. Dedication is like that. In many Buddhist temples around the world, at the end of a chanting ceremony, there is always a moment when everyone together recites a dedication. You can hear dozens, sometimes hundreds of voices, blending into one unified prayer. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings know peace. It's not just words. It's energy. You can actually feel it in your body, this current of compassion that rises when many hearts are focused in the same direction. Science even has a name for this phenomenon: collective coherence. When groups meditate, pray, or sing together, their heart rhythms and even their brainwaves begin to synchronize. It's as if our inner worlds were designed to connect. Have you ever been in a stadium during the national anthem, or at a concert where the whole crowd sings the chorus? There's a power that sweeps through the room. You feel lifted, carried by something bigger than yourself. That's what happens with dedication in a spiritual community. What begins as a personal prayer becomes part of a collective force, like countless candles lighting one another until the whole room is glowing. Here's a beautiful image from the Buddhist tradition. When we dedicate merit together, it's like each of us pouring a single drop of water into a bowl. At first, it seems so small. But as everyone adds their drop, the bowl becomes full, and the water can quench the thirst of many. Dedication transforms the private into the shared. It turns my blessing into our blessing. And maybe that's what the world needs most right now. Not isolated goodness, but connected goodness. Not kindness locked in individual hearts, but kindness woven into the fabric of our communities. I remember once attending a small evening chanting in a monastery. There were maybe 20 of us. At the end, we all recited the dedication together. I closed my eyes, and suddenly, I didn't just hear 20 voices. I felt like I was hearing echoes from across centuries, as if millions of practitioners throughout history were chanting with us. In that moment, time and space collapsed. I wasn't just me, sitting in a hall. I was part of a living ocean of spirit, flowing through generations. That's the hidden power of dedication. It doesn't just connect you to the people in the same room. It connects you to everyone, everywhere, who has ever sent out compassion. Now, You don't need to be in a temple to experience this. Even when you're alone, when you dedicate, you are joining something larger. Picture it this way. Every sincere prayer, every act of merit, is like a signal sent into the sky. And when you send yours, it doesn't vanish. It joins countless others, weaving an invisible network of hope and healing. Some call it the field of consciousness. Some call it universal love. Whatever name you prefer, the point is this: your dedication adds to the great current of compassion that flows through humanity. And here's a question worth reflecting on. What happens when we realize that dedication isn't just a private ritual, but a bridge? It's a bridge between me and you, between one heart and another, between one community and the greater whole. Dedication transforms our perspective. We stop seeing ourselves as separate beings carrying tiny sparks of goodness, and we begin to realize we are part of a great fire that has always been burning, keeping humanity alive through love, service, and connection. This changes how we live daily life, because suddenly, every good deed is not just for me or for you, it's for us. Imagine if everyone thought that way. Imagine a world where each act of kindness wasn't just given, but consciously dedicated to the collective well-being. Imagine billions of drops becoming an ocean of peace. And here's the deeper mystery. If dedication connects me to you, and us to each other, could it also connect us to something beyond humanity? To the earth itself? To unseen beings? To the great mystery we call the divine? Maybe dedication isn't just a bridge between people. Maybe it's a bridge between dimensions of existence, between the visible and the invisible, between what we know and what we can only sense with the heart. So, next time you dedicate, don't think of it as a small whisper fading into the air. Think of it as dropping your voice into a choir that has been singing for centuries. Think of it as placing your drop into the ocean of timeless compassion. Dedication is never solitary. It is always a connection. And here's the thought to carry with you. If dedication is a bridge, who or what could be waiting on the other side? That's the path we'll step into in the next part. Dedication for those who have passed. Let me begin with a question. Can love cross the boundary between life and death? It's something many of us wonder when we lose someone dear. We stand by a grave, or we look at an old photograph, and deep inside we ask, can they still feel my love? Does it still reach them somehow? In Buddhist practice, there is a gentle answer, yes. Not in the way we might touch a hand or speak a word, but through the invisible current of compassion, through the act of dedication. For centuries, people in many cultures have believed that what we do in this life doesn't stop with us. It can ripple outward, even beyond the veil of death. That's why in many traditions, families gather to pray, to light candles, to make offerings, and then to dedicate those blessings to their departed loved ones. They believe the energy of goodness, when sincerely offered, becomes like light in the dark, guiding, comforting, even easing the path of those who have moved on. Think about it. When you dedicate in memory of someone you love, you're saying, I haven't forgotten you. I'm still sending you kindness. I want your soul to be at peace. That's not just ritual. That's love in its purest form. Let me share an image. Imagine the night sky. To our eyes, it looks silent. But scientists tell us that space is filled with invisible waves, radio signals, starlight, even the echoes of the Big Bang itself. Just because we can't see it, doesn't mean it isn't there. Dedication works like that. You may not see the path your love travels, but it moves nonetheless. Compassion has its own frequency. And just as music can pass through walls, compassion can pass through the boundary we call death. I remember meeting a woman who had lost her brother unexpectedly. She said, every day, I light a candle and dedicate my prayers to him. I don't know if it helps him, but I know it helps me. And that's the beautiful paradox. When we dedicate to the departed, we are not only giving, we are also healing ourselves. The act softens grief. It transforms longing into love. It turns sorrow into a gesture of care. We no longer feel powerless in the face of death, because dedication gives us something we can do. We can send light. This is why dedication is also about filial piety, the ancient practice of honoring parents and ancestors. To dedicate for those who came before us is a way of saying, your life mattered. Your kindness lives on in me, and I will keep your memory alive through compassion. It is an invisible thread connecting generations. It is how we carry our loved ones forward, not only in stories or photographs, but in living energy. Now, maybe you're wondering, but does it really reach them? Does my prayer truly touch the one I've lost? That's a question no science can answer, and yet, in moments of deep sincerity, many people report feeling a quiet reassurance, an inner peace, as if their love had found its way. Even if we cannot prove where it goes, we can feel what it does in us. Dedication releases the heavy stone of regret and replaces it with a steady flame of gratitude. And that flame changes how we live. Think of it this way. When you dedicate to someone who has passed, you're extending your love beyond time and space. You're learning that compassion is not limited by a body, by a heartbeat, by physical presence. Compassion is larger than life, because it is larger than death. And here's something to sit with. If compassion can reach the departed, then maybe compassion can reach anyone, anywhere. That leads us to the next step, dedicating not only for our loved ones, but for all beings. Those we know, and those we'll never meet. The human, the animal, the seen, and the unseen. Because when compassion expands like that, it stops being just personal. It becomes universal. But for now, let's pause here. If you've ever lost someone, if you've ever lit a candle or whispered a prayer in their name, then you already know, dedication doesn't just ease the journey of the departed. It eases the heart of the living. And maybe that is the greatest healing of all, that in remembering them with love, we find peace for ourselves. So let me leave you with this thought. If dedicating merit can bring peace to those who've gone before us, what happens when we dedicate to all beings, everywhere? That's the path we'll explore in the next part. Dedication for all beings. Let me ask you something. Can you imagine that every breath you exhale could be a blessing for the whole world? It might sound poetic, maybe even impossible. But in the spirit of dedication, this is exactly what becomes possible. Most of us think of dedication as something small and personal. Maybe a prayer for a loved one, a candle lit for a friend, or a wish for someone who is struggling. That is already beautiful. But what if we let that circle grow wider? What if we stretched our compassion so far that it embraced not just family or friends, but strangers, animals, forests, rivers, even unseen beings we will never meet? This is the vast vision of the Bodhisattva, the awakened being who chooses not just to seek peace for themselves, but to extend it endlessly to all. Take a moment and picture this. When a mother whispers, "May my child be safe," that's love. When she expands that whisper into, "May all children everywhere be safe," that's dedication without boundaries. It's a shift from my love to universal love. And the amazing thing? Our hearts are built for this expansion. The more we give, the more we discover we can give. There's a story told in many Buddhist circles. A monk once sat in meditation and said, "May I be free from suffering." Then he thought, why stop there? May my family be free from suffering. Then, may my whole village be free. Finally, his heart opened so wide, he said, "May all beings everywhere be free from suffering." In that moment, he realized something powerful. Compassion has no natural limit. It only stops where we choose to stop. Now, you might wonder, does this actually do anything for the world? Does sending love to people or beings you'll never meet make a difference? Here's something to consider. Neuroscientists today are discovering what mystics have known for centuries, that compassion literally changes the brain. Acts of kindness, even thoughts of kindness, create measurable shifts in how we think and feel. And when groups of people practice compassion together, it creates a collective field, like many instruments joining into one symphony. So yes, when you dedicate for all beings, maybe you don't see the immediate result out there. But you do see the change in here, in your heart, your mind, your way of being. And the way you show up in the world starts to ripple outward in ways you can't always measure. Think about this in daily life. Imagine driving on a crowded highway. Instead of muttering curses at the traffic, you silently wish, "May all these drivers arrive safely." Suddenly, your stress softens. Your breath deepens. You've turned a moment of irritation into a moment of offering. Or when you see a bird flying across the sky, you can whisper, "May you be free, little one." When you walk into a forest, you can think, "May these trees keep standing strong, may they be safe from harm." These are small, almost invisible acts, but they are the seeds of a vast garden of compassion. And here's the most surprising part. The more you expand your dedication, the less heavy your own self becomes. When we only dedicate for ourselves or our close circle, there's still a subtle grip of me and mine. But when we open to all beings, something shifts. The ego loosens. The walls around the heart start to dissolve. It's like standing by the ocean. If you scoop water into a cup, that's my water. But when you pour it back, it merges with the vast sea, becoming endless. Dedication works the same way. So here's the paradox. When we stop clinging to our own merit, our own blessings, and instead release them outward, to humans, to animals, to all living and even unseen beings, our merit doesn't shrink. It grows. It becomes inexhaustible. Because compassion isn't a pie you divide into smaller slices. It's a flame. The more candles you light from it, the brighter the world becomes, and your own flame never goes out. This is the heart of what the Bodhisattvas model for us, to dedicate without limit, to embrace all beings as worthy of peace and freedom. And you don't have to be a monk, or a saint, or a mystic to live this way. You can start now, in the most ordinary moment. With your breath. With your thoughts. With the small choices you make each day. Every exhale, a blessing. Every step, a silent prayer. Every interaction, a chance to send something good into the world. So let me leave you with this reflection. If we can expand our dedication to embrace all beings, what happens to the very idea of self and other? Maybe the next level of this practice isn't just giving to others, but realizing that, in the deepest sense, there is no separation at all. That's the mystery we'll explore in the next part. Dedication, the art of letting go so merit becomes infinite. Merit is like the fragrance of a flower. The more it spreads, the farther it travels. Have you ever noticed how the scent of a single blossom can fill an entire room? The flower doesn't hold back its fragrance. It doesn't say, "This is only for me." It just gives. And in that act of giving, its beauty multiplies. Merit works the same way. Most of us, whether we realize it or not, like to hold on to our goodness. We keep a mental scorecard. I did this kind act, I gave that donation, I helped this person. And there's nothing wrong with noticing those things. It's natural. But here's the catch. The more tightly we cling to our good deeds as mine, the smaller their power becomes. It's like holding water in your fist. The tighter you grip, the less you keep. But when you open your palm, when you release, suddenly, the flow is endless. In Buddhist practice, this release is called dedication. It's the art of saying, may the goodness of this act not be for me alone. May it go to others. May it go everywhere it's needed. And here's the paradox. The moment you let go, you don't lose the merit. You multiply it. Because the act of releasing itself creates more merit. Think about generosity. If you give someone a meal, that's good. But if you give without expectation, without needing thanks, without holding on to pride, the act becomes much greater. Why? Because now it's pure. Now it's freedom. And isn't that what we are all seeking in one way or another? Freedom from the constant weight of me, mine, my gain, my loss? I'll share a simple example. Once, I donated anonymously to a charity. No receipt, no acknowledgement, no name attached. At first, a part of me resisted. I thought, but I want to know they know it was me. Then I realized, that need to be recognized was just my ego asking for attention. When I let it go, when I gave in complete silence, something surprising happened. I felt lighter. Not smaller. Lighter. It was as if the giving expanded in every direction. This is what dedication teaches us. By releasing the ownership of merit, we are no longer caged by it. We step into a flow that is infinite. Because merit, like fragrance, is not meant to be stored in a box. The more you lock it away, the quicker it fades. The more you let it drift, the more it spreads, across hearts, across spaces, across time. And here's something deeper. Letting go doesn't only bless others. It liberates you. When you dedicate, you're no longer calculating or keeping score. You're no longer chained to outcomes. You're simply offering, like the flower, like the sun, like the wind. And in that offering, you taste freedom, the freedom of a heart unburdened. Now, some people might ask, but if I always give away my merit, won't I have nothing left for myself? That's like a candle worrying it will burn out by lighting other candles. The flame doesn't shrink. It multiplies. Every time you dedicate, you're not subtracting from yourself. You're adding to the whole, and you are part of that whole. It's like pouring a drop of water into the ocean. You might think, I've lost my drop. But no, you've gained the ocean. This is the quiet genius of dedication. It transforms merit from something small and personal into something vast and inexhaustible. It turns the act of doing good into the art of being free. Because when you stop holding on to my merit, you stop holding on to myself. And in that release lies liberation. Imagine living like this in daily life. Every act of kindness, dedicated. Every struggle overcome, dedicated. Every prayer whispered, dedicated. Not just for you. Not just for your circle. But for the world. For all beings. It turns every step you take into an offering. Every breath into a blessing. Every moment into freedom. So let me ask you, what would it feel like to stop clutching your blessings and instead let them flow outward, like fragrance on the wind? What would it mean to live as if everything good in you is already meant to be shared? This is the art of letting go. This is the way merit becomes infinite. And yet, this is only the first doorway. Because dedication isn't just about release, it's also about planting. So in the next video, we'll ask, how can we plant the seeds of merit right here, in our everyday lives? That's where the journey continues.